Wait, are you sure this line is secure?
Yeah, pretty sure it is. Yeah, okay. Ready to open up a line, take it up to broadcast depth. Greetings, everybody. This is once again Josie Cat 79 K Chris of the Rambling Bros with my usual co-host, the one and only uh Dark Neon, aka Derek. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine, but the honor is all mine, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is kind of a funny situation. I didn't expect to be making this so soon, but I had a feeling it might happen. This is actually the reverse of an early situation where we both saw something and one of us enthusiastically said, "Dude, we gotta talk about this." Last time it was me with James Wan's *Malignant* when we just saw it on a whim. Like Derek recommended it, I just saw it and I went, holy crap, I gotta talk about this. And sadly, thanks to my ineptitude, that will forever be lost to the ether, but we had a pretty good talk, if I remember.
Yeah, after multiple takes, but
Oh god, yeah.
I'm just,
For
I'm,
some
I'm
reason,
so glad that multiple nights were lost to the cosmos of like someone not backing up their files.
yeah, I should have used carbonite. But yeah, yeah, so in this case, Derek here had just come back from a screening of a movie and thought we got to talk about this. And I thought I'm all for that. I was actually waiting for that. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, hey guys, why are you guys talking about this movie and not something else that's making all the records and waves and everything like that?
It's
Well,
just patience. We have something planned for that one.
yeah, besides, I don't know if there's anything more we can say right now that everybody else hasn't been saying. Pretty much a triumph, and we could be talking about the, oh my God, remember this and that, but I think for us, we kind of have a funny track record around here. I don't know if it says anything about our taste or about how we view the world, but we tend to talk about movies that can't quite speak for themselves. I mean, the general consensus is this thing is crap, and you should feel bad for watching it. No, don't get us wrong. We know crap when we see it. The other day, Derek just wrote a very scathing review of the Home Alone's most recent entry to try to up the ante, and they utterly and completely failed in ways he couldn't even imagine.
It's it would have been fine if it was just a movie just called something else, but it just had to have the Home Alone name. It had to have Home Alone tropes. It doesn't even feel warranted. Doesn't feel earned. Doesn't even have the right to even share the same universe that they tried to fit in with that dumb cameo.
So I'm pretty sure some people would say the same thing about the movie we're about to talk about today, but I think what you and I can recognize there's something truly special in this thing. So of course we're talking about the Matrix Resurrections, the most recent entry in the seminal Matrix franchise, which up until a few days ago was just a trilogy. Although there's this anime spinoff in comics, but it was mostly regarded as the Matrix
And some
trilogy
video games.
and some games. But
But
it became
the but of course the big question some uninitiated would be, what is the Matrix?
yes, The Matrix is a very big deal film from 1999 that shook the world, only with its with its kinetic action, its crazy visuals, and mostly its very big philosophical questions. The biggest one being, what is reality? What is real? Is my voice being heard by you right now actually real? You're just hearing something put together by electronics to help you stimulate the idea of you're listening to somebody. Is are my experiences real, or are they just something imagined? Am I really here? Is Derek really? Am I? You start going down the rabbit hole. You start falling into questions of what is the very meaning of existence.
Basically, you know how in the old days Hollywood was trying to capture that whole niche of how the internet was sweeping waves and how like technology was going to change things. Well, the Matrix was able to tackle that, but in a way that it just would tackle concepts that would actually be like to this day still talked about, like in questions of anonymity or how much one has like power over the other, of how much of a presence they have or how visible they are. Do my words actually matter in the grand scheme of things, or are they just lost in the ether? Is this fame real? Is it not? It's kind of almost like so far ahead of its time, it's become like the reality, as it were.
Yeah. Funny enough, though, all this deep stuff from the same movie with lines like "I know kung fu." So, but yeah, so it
So,
was pastiche.
whoa.
Yeah, it was a pastiche film. It was a pastiche film taking like from Eastern entertainment, like kung fu films and anime. It was taking sci-fi tropes, nuclear apocalypse, robot wars. It took all these things, put them in a blender, but made it in such a way that the pop culture just embraced it. I mean, come on. I'm sure those of you who grew up in the early 2000s will always remember how there was always something that parodied that famous Matrix rotation bullet time thing.
But yeah, so The Matrix started out as a very intuitive movie that was literally like timed just at the right moment where everyone was kind of questioning about the whole Y2K thing. Party like it's 1999 and all that.
Yeah. And it was a pretty good self-contained story. What's funny is that the journey to make it was pretty interesting, and it settled on an unorthodox group of people. You have, character actor Lawrence Fishburne as this, sage-like, mystery man Morpheus. You got Keanu Reeves cast as the everyman Thomas Anderson, also the hacker Neo. You got, Australian actor Hugo Weaving playing a very intimidating government agent. Carrie-Anne Moss is the elusive. Everyone is funny. A Cypher or a mystery. There actually is a character named Cypher, played by Bill Pantoliano, who's one of the funniest characters in that movie.
And funny enough, at one point, Keanu Reeves wouldn't have become the iconic Neo or Thomas Anderson, as we all know. Originally, the Wachowskis brothers at the time, now sisters, were actually eyeing on a very specific star that they thought would actually be able to pull off the Matrix. Will Smith.
He actually has a
you will see Big Willie style taking on the agents and freeing everyone from the Matrix.
Yeah, I think he has his own story, in his own words, the story why eventually he turned down the idea of the Matrix. I think he actually passed the Matrix to do Wild Wild West, which in hindsight is kind of funny when you look at it. But in the end, he says nobody could have pulled it off better than Keanu. He himself endorses that Keanu made that movie because he was both, interesting protagonist and also audience avatar. We're woeing what he's woeing. We're learning what they're learning because if you look at it, it's kind of a lot of exposition, but it's not like exposition dump just to bury you with information. It kind of just really leads into this world. Like there's only one really big exposition heavy scene, and it's when Morpheus explains to him in the construct what the Matrix is and everything like that. But other than that, it kind of just naturally ebbs and flows organically.
And plus, when you really think about it, Will's already kind of done like a average everyday person in everyday like typical life, discovering that there's actually more mysteries abound, stuff that's hidden in plain sight, and it was all done in a film that also had black as being the big style.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably would have been like a repeat trend. That might have probably been the thing that might have swayed it away. Also, a personal opinion, I didn't think Wild Wild West is that bad. I actually kind of grew up enjoying that thing.
It is funny, yeah. And one thing that's funny about that movie is the back and forth wordplay between Loveless and Will Smith's. Man, it's just stuff like, oh man, I didn't think you could think of half of that stuff up there. Well, while you are rather dark and suave right here, I think they just keep going back and forth in a way. They're insulting each other in polite conversation without,
we would kind of keep quoting, but some of the dialogue that specifically Loveless gives off is kind of
yeah.
Anyways.
But the point is, history could have been different. And of course, naturally, when you make a big movie, what do? You franchise the damn thing. Think about this. Matrix came out in the same year.
You make sequels. You make a video game spin-off. You make a freaking anime prequel, integral, semi-sequel to the original.
You also make comic books.
You pretty much changed the face of the game for media chain.
And like we said, there's be like a crap ton of parodies. I mean, we've all seen the cartoon shows everywhere where someone does something where they like either go on their back and dodge something, or they like do that whole camera rotation that Trinity did in the opening. So it's like, you saw it. You couldn't even go to Shrek without seeing that. So it's like it was everywhere. Hell, like I do remember that one movie making fun of kung fu movies had like a cow slapping its daughters and shooting milk while the guy's like dodging it projectially like bullet time. I think that was Kung Pao under the fist. I think.
Also, I'm under the impression that the creative mind behind Kids Next Door was a very heavy Matrix fans, because not only did the intro to the pilot open up with a indirect phone call that's against a black screen with text going on, one of the episodes homaged the second Renaissance, one of the Animatrix story tales that
the origin
foretold the origin of how everything became the way they are in the Matrix.
And it ends with Nigel, what the hell does any of that have to do with Paul Revere? I think that was it, right?
And then of course they comment that it's like they know,
which is like something the machines. So yeah, it's just so funny. So point is, the problem is when you do make something that a stone that splashes the water that big, it is very hard to follow up. And to this day, it is still debated if those two sequels measured up or if they fell short. Because let's say they got a little too big and ambitious for their britches. They expanded to like more of the real world stuff, showing more of this post-apocalyptic future with giant mechs and giant underground tunnel caves. Like they expand on stuff hinted at in the first movie, but they also go a little more humorous. Like you got Agent Smith seemingly destroyed at the end of the first movie, spoilers, but yeah, is now back and replicating, and he's just quipping to himself about how great it is being me and stuff like that.
And you also have that very like flamboyant Frenchman that's just basically taunting how uppity class he is and how much power he has just because he has backdoor access to outdated exile files for original Matrixes beforehand.
Yeah,
remember there was actually more than one Matrix attempt.
Lambert Wilson as the Merovingian. Yeah, like we all love that part where he's quoting about how much he loves cussing in French. It's like wiping your ass with silk. I love it. So, and some people feel that the characters became a little too flanderized, a little too stiff. I mean,
let's just cut the bull crap. They just don't have any emotional impact like they did in the first movie.
They're more
at least in the first one, whenever shit got like down and dirty, like the characters reacted like, "Oh my god, holy shit! Oh, this is going on," like FUBAR. But here it's just like it's all just part of the prophecy. Just keep going with the flow.
You know who got it the worst? I think Trinity actually. She's actually better in her real world scenes, but in the Matrix, they have to keep that coolness factor, so she seems always a little stilted. She has some funny quips here and there, like, so what do you got? But this thing's lined with C4 and everything, so good for us, bad for us. Yeah, stuff like that.
And then the third one basically was just like the Matrix, but minus most of the Matrix.
Yeah, in fact, on retrospect, a lot of Revolutions takes place in the real world. I mean,
I guess it makes sense because that's like literally where like the whole stakes are at. The whole Matrix thing was just a means to get in and out of machine worlds to get intel or find like awakened potentials or like finding ways to sabotage the machines, trying to get to Zion. But it's basically gone FUBAR as soon as Smith starts going viral in a literal sense.
Which is funny because he called humanity a virus and a plague, and he himself becomes a virus and a plague. But yeah. I mean, we're more into the Doc War at Zion with characters we barely spent time with, and the characters we actually tried to like in the first movie are off flying on some side quest that doesn't feel like the main quest until like the third act.
And also just unceremoniously kills off the two main leads, essentially.
Yeah, although Neo's was more of a self-sacrifice that made more sense in the context of his one thing, but Trinity's came out of nowhere, and it felt more like a way to like say, "Shit, what's she gonna do the whole time Neo's fighting Smith?" I don't know. Let's just this is as far as she goes. Boom.
And you all thought Serenity had a bullshit like character exit. Actually, that one had way too many bullshit character exits. Jeez.
Yeah.
Even when he got a second chance, it still got screwed.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, people have varying. Some people actually like the sequels because stuff happens in them, or the stakes are. It just goes more over the top and cartoonish. I mean, you got like, I mean, it literally turns into a cartoon where we joke while we're watching it. That's not how human bodies bend when Neo does some of his more extreme stuff with loads of CGI that looks like he just said all you gotta do is slap on a game console logo right next to the way the CG looks.
Like hell, I would probably believe that the in-game cutscenes of Enter the Matrix and Path of Neo would actually be more realistic than the CGI done here.
Well, namely during the Broly Brawl, where it starts off with Keanu Reeves fighting a handful of Hugo Weaving lookalikes, but the more Smiths come in, the more rubbery everything starts to look.
But yeah. So I guess that's basically how the Matrix movies go. It's like it's the beginning, it's the middle, it's an end. It's trilogy. Like a lot of Hollywood used to have trilogies, but now trilogies just aren't enough anymore. They just gotta have more. So before we get started on it, let's just quickly like go and put our thoughts on like each of the movies. I personally think the first one is still the best. I often rewatch it. Love that I got the chance to rewatch it on the big screen last year during like one of the pandemic lulls when the theaters were, trying to put something out. And it literally still stands the test of time even with this CGI. Second one, I could give or take. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I just roll my eyes at it, especially with the stupid ass architect explanation thing. And then the third one is just it was a pretty good wrap up if this is how the story was going to end.
Another thing too, though, was that Zion rave scene probably could have used a few trims. I mean, we were actually watching, and he was going, "Okay, okay, we get it, Wachowskis." but no, we needed more shots of undulating and more up close shots of Trinity and Neo.
So quickly, your thoughts on the three.
Yes, the first one, obviously, that I ignored it for so many years for some dumb reason I can't even fathom it myself. But once I bought it in a VHS store, and after my very beloved friend Jay, Hugo Blood, as you know from the High Ground Council, just told me I really got to see it. So I see it, and I asked him to see the other ones, and we watched them all. And I love the Matrix trilogy as a whole. As a birthday gift, he even gave me the it's kind of scratched up now, but it's the 4-pack Matrix trilogy plus Animatrix DVD 2-layer disc, which Walmart sells a lot, I believe. But yeah, and
I believe you also managed to get a certain behind the scenes DVD that it's very rare that movies usually do that, put out like a behind the scenes focused DVD unless it's actually packaged with the movie, which I'm pretty sure it was at one point.
But yeah, to be fair, the first Matrix DVD was basic. It had some stuff, but it didn't have like in-depth stuff like this one did. Plus, it had a sneak peek at part 2 when they were filming it. So, but yeah, Matrix Revisited. But yeah, the Matrix movies, Matrix 1 is still amazing. I rewatching it with Derek for our rewatch was amazing. No, I actually watched it with Jay, but it was incredible watching it on my projector screen. And then Reloaded. So I actually had a lot of fun with that one. It has the most fun fights. I mean, that highway chase scene, wow, just wow. Also, I love how hyper aggressive the Smith replacement Agent Johnson is. Like every time he kicks the door down or something, he has like this. He's always gritting his teeth and has like this super aggressive snarl. Have you noticed that with that lead agent?
I always feel like he was like roided up. It's like, okay, you're not Hugo Weaving. Guess fuck charm. Let's just put it like more muscles.
Hell, like he's the one that smashed the car when he jumped out of the car. Like forget like subtlety. What's that? when like that's one of my favorite moments in the whole thing. Yeah, that's when the stakes get higher because they're being chased by Ghost for the Merovingians exiles, and Morpheus said, "Yeah, the freeway's a bad idea because there's blue pills everywhere, and the agents just keep proving why that's a bad idea." But yeah, I love it when he decides to go, fucks it subtly, and just jumps on a car and completely pancakes it to leapfrog to their car. But yeah, I think it's just entertaining. Of the three, if I want to watch one just to like not think too hard and just watch, once you get past the awkward Zion rave scene, it's good. I get the point, but it goes on. I just have a lot of fun with it because it's very snarky. I love it when a guy gets assimilated by Smith. He's going, "Oh God," and he goes, "Nah, Smith will suffice." Stuff like that. It's just a delight to watch. I mean, the Burly Braw's stupid as hell at times, but you gotta love the build up to it with the whole purpose speech that Hugo Weaving just delivers with such gusto. He's not just chewing the scenery; he is full gusto, deep throating the entire scenery in that movie.
I do have to question that you choose the second one if you like don't want to think too hard on it, especially with that out of nowhere, just like philosophical mumbo jumbo techno talk with the architect.
I think you jokingly said it sounds like the Wachowskis found a dictionary of very big words and decided to just throw all of them into this one speech. Ergo, exclusively, vis-a-vis, like just concurrently, like, okay, we get
Shut
it.
up! God, it's like you use random words here randomly just to make yourself sound smarter.
Now you're being obtuse. The joke goes, yeah. Stop it. Stop it. Yeah,
transcendent.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That Frieza joke pretty much. I think that's the perfect response to anyone who doesn't get the architect scene. To be honest, I didn't get it the first time I watched it either as a kid, but as an adult, I get, oh, it's straightforward. He said, "Why can't you just say there have been 5 versions? You're the 5th version. You've always been a problem. So
sixth version, but
yeah,
always been a problem. It's kind of a loop pattern that has to work for both the Matrix, for us, and for humanity. Zion will be destroyed. Blah blah blah. Choose these many people to start anew, and rinse, repeat. The cycle continues.
All without the vis-a-vis, concurrently, inherent, all that stuff. Although I do love the Neos yelling in the screen.
Bullshit.
Reaction, like all their different reactions to everything. Like, what? What's that? Oh, you're right. I'm gonna fucking get like. There is a B reel that the Wachowskis recorded of Keanu on the blue screen just shouting every obscenity and doing everything that so he can fit for those screens for the Neos that are pissed inside the screens.
I do love the middle finger one. That essentially was a callback to his interrogation room.
Yeah.
How about I give you the finger, and I get my phone call.
But yeah, so yeah, Reloaded is a little loaded, but I really enjoy it, especially. I mean, it's what I have a lot of fun with. Now, Revolutions, I actually really enjoy as a send off too, like you said, because it shows you that machines can also kind of, even though they're programs, they are also people, so to speak. Because you find out about Sati and her family, who are programs within the Matrix that are in trouble with the Merovingians. So he wants to shuttle.
I do have one nitpick. I feel that would have made Revolutions like gargantuan. Why couldn't we see the Matrix being like overrun by the Smiths as like Zion was being overrun? It's like not only is the machines invading humanity, but this virus is literally invading both the sleeper humanity and the machines across the city.
There's a lot of tell not showing in that part because you just see like Link looking at the Matrix saying, "Oh my God, something's going on. I've never seen it before." And later, Neo tells the machines, "The program Smith is out of control. You can't stop him, but I can." And the machines, they're like, "We don't need you, but okay, you can kill me." But yeah,
I really wanted to see like a bunch of agents like coalescing together and trying to stop this thing and bringing armies in, but then the Smiths are just overrunning them. They're just trying to get any help, any input from the machines of like what protocol to do about this because they've never faced something like this.
Yeah. So, like, while at the same time humanity's being overwhelmed by machines, like, by the way, the dock scene is the highlight, especially Captain Mifune and his APU just going to town. Like, if I had to compare to anything, it's a lot like the Battle of Hoth, but underground, and the odds are just as bad. And I always called the Squiddies cute. Don't ask them why. I always did, but they weren't so cute when they were swarming around you, chopping you to bits.
Well, here's the way that you can make yourself think they're cute. Just think of it as like giving them like a playful nip on the face.
Oh yeah, but except I mean, all of them were grotesque, especially Mifune after he got, you know, basically run through a vegetable slicer with them, but still alive to talk to Kid. Oh, and the Kid character who was seen as the annoying super fan gets to actually do something in this movie and prove his worth.
Gee, it's not like we've seen that one before.
But yeah, there's also the Jada Pinkett Smith, coincidentally Will Smith's wife, is in this movie when he turned on the role, but she's Nairobi. Having the chase with a big ship, which is funny. The ship is called the Mjolnir, but apparently no one on the crew could actually pronounce the name properly, so they just refer to it as the Hammer. So now that the Avengers are a thing, knowing that that thing was going to be a Mjolnir is actually more funnier to me now.
And
But
it's also more funny that Niobe gets to do more here in the third movie, whereas the second one is just kind of like, hey, I'm Jada Pinkett Smith, I'm playing one of the characters in the Matrix.
yeah, that's
Because
basically.
most of her stuff was in the video game that entered the Matrix.
Yep. So that's why if you feel like, what did she contribute? Well, play the game, find out. It's also funny. This movie has future DCEU star Harry Lennox as Captain Jason Locke, who is always the grumpy puss about how we don't have enough to fight Zion. We need every ship available, and if it was up to me, well, we got to be thankful it's not up to you. Like poor guy, he means well, but he is Grumpy Cat. He is Grumpy Cat of the Matrix generals. Eh?
So basically, role is no different than how he did it in Man of Steel.
As General Swanek, was it General Swanek, I believe?
Yeah,
He became
let's
a,
go with
then he
that.
became a then he became a secretary in
And
BVS, and
then,
he had a
and
big
then became Martian Manhunter, because
yeah.
that's a thing.
Well, yeah, you gotta admit, as much as we loved the Snyder cut, that part does make you say it does beg that question that every comic movie can now kind of avoid. Well, wait, if you were here this whole time, how come? Yeah, that the Avengers deal with that problem every day too. Especially, I mean, we were watching Iron Man 3 and we said, I can't help but feel like Captain America would have something to say about the president of the United States being abducted, but I guess he was off doing spy stuff.
And
Anyway,
considering how the DCU literally started off with everyone being prejudiced against, an alien that looked human, like, you think it's going to be any different to an alien that literally looks like a 50s alien?
yeah, so that guy was a revelation. There's a lot of good casting in those movies, but
But
yeah,
we're not here to talk about that. That's for another discussion, and one we've already made. So if you could probably click the link that my bro will be throwing up somewhere.
yeah, we'll be
Basically, we just
talking.
want you to watch our videos. We need to dominate YouTube. We need to one up over all the other guys.
Oh, the other guys have lot more slick production and better radio voices. We're just two dudes who love to ramble, and that's our appeal. We're charming. So anyway, well, we would hope. So we're here to talk about Resurrections, which renders it no longer a trilogy, but now a saga. And I know a lot of us were
Or
worried.
or many could think it's the start of the next trilogy.
A sequel trilogy, let's say. Speaking of which, hint, hint. Don't worry, he's getting new jobs. I think his schedule will be a lot more freer. We'll be able to actually talk about those things eventually before the 10th anniversary of one of them comes up.
So yes, a lot of people have had the question in their mind: could there be Matrix 4? Is Keanu
Should
still involved? Do the Wachowskis still want to do it?
should there be a Matrix 4? There's a lot of questions that keep in mind. This conversation happened for the
How would you do a Matrix 4? I think that was a bigger question.
yeah, that was like 18 years worth of speculation before we finally got the ball rolling because people were wondering like because they seem to hint at a Force movie with the even though there was peace because even the architect saw how long do you think this peace will last. Oracle says as long as it should, and then he says the people who want to be free will be free. And even the program Sati asks Oracle, "Will we ever see Neo again?" She says, "I believe we will someday." So that leaves the door open. Even though he heroically sacrificed himself, there might be something going on. And they did do a continuation in an MMO that sadly is not around no more. It was too bold ahead of its time. The Matrix Online. It it had an ambitious story idea, but the gameplay mechanics were just stilted, and MMOs weren't quite. World of Warcraft hadn't quite made the crack in that yet, so they were still experimental. So it's a very there's a lot of videos on the sad, interesting history of Matrix Online. I think nowadays with online gaming, that is more feasible to do.
I'm pretty sure there's people are still Phantom servering it.
It's not quite the same. They haven't quite cloned the servers of that one, so it's
attempts are made at least. It's like these days, like they'll like literally attempt to recreate anything with like Unreal Engine 4, 5, 27, 32.
Speaking of Unreal, you did play a Matrix Awakens on the PS5. How nuts was that?
First time I played it, I was just kind of going like, "Oh wait, is this like live action footage of Keanu, or is this the engine? This is the engine actually running?"
Power of the PS5.
And then just watching the action sequence and playing it. Like the game is simple. It's just basically like it'll auto aim for you. You just basically shoot. You like move your direction. It's basically like chopped up into two parts. It's the chase, which has the action and bombastic stuff, and then the city, which allows you to explore at your own leisure and messing with the features and the settings and see what you could actually do with the Unreal Engine. And I gotta say, if this is what the basic Unreal Engine 5 is, things are gonna get really interesting with what the other game developers are gonna deal with that.
Yeah, so at least they're cutting edge in the game, which I'm surprised we didn't get a tie-in game with this, but I guess the age of tie-in games is long since passed. But yeah, so there were rumors about doing a 4, if anyone would come back, if we could do it with or without the Wachowskis, and the Wachowskis probably didn't want to be pigeonholed into making Matrix movies forever, so they went on to do their own things. They did like producing films like V for Vendetta, or directing films of passion like Speed Racer, which is now being recognized as a pretty faithful anime film. At the time, people didn't know what to make heads or tails of it. They do experiment.
I knew I was watching pretty much like, yeah, this is pretty much a cartoon.
And then there was, of course, Cloud Atlas, which was a very heady,
you thought Matrix was ahead of the time. That one was just like ahead of the concept. It's like, maybe you should have just waited a few more years cooking that one. But
yeah,
good try though. Good try.
They probably flew too close to the sun on that one. What's funny about that movie is it has a lot of their regulars showing up in it. And then there's, of course, the most recent thing that they did was Jupiter Ascending, which was supposed to launch a new sci-fi franchise, and it was weird. I mean, there was a lot of things to make fun about it. There was Channing Tatum's half animal man. I don't know, with the genetics and that. There was the fact that the main character is Mila Kunis, who, I mean, if you listen to That 70s Show or Family Guy, you're just laughing, even if she's trying to be serious. I mean, bless her heart, she's a great actress. But and then, of course, the biggest thing about that movie people took away was Eddie Redmayne being a bad guy who either snarls every dialogue or shouts everything in an overdramatic fashion. Like, and this is the guy who got an Academy Award for other movies. So, I mean, now he's Newt Scamander in the Fantastic Beasts series. But yeah, Jupiter Ascending was an interesting misfire. I mean, I don't think it's. Some people say it's awful. Some say, it's just all right. But it's just like the Wachowskis.
My brother loved it. I'll take his word for it.
Yeah. Well, the basic point is the Wachowskis were trying to make a new Matrix, basically, without being the Matrix, and it didn't quite.
And basically, after what was it, 4 or 5 different tries, they went like, okay, we probably need to think a little bit on Matrix, but we won't get our hopes up on this.
Well, hell, I mean, I think what eventually prompted it was a tragedy on personal side when, like, I think their parents had passed away within months of each other. So I think kind of as a coping mechanism, they can't have mom and dad, but they can bring back characters like Neo and Trinity and the like. So it was sort of a therapeutic personal thing, but also made under duress of the studio, basically saying, we kind of need this because at this point, WB had made HBO Max their biggest foray into the streaming wars, and it needs content, and part of that content is, well, let's make a movie. And were it not for recent world events, I don't know if it would have naturally gone there, but because of world events facilitating the need with theater closures, they made that bold idea to put their entire 2021 release schedule on HBO Max for subscribers, which was good for people like me, because I got to see Godzilla vs. Kong when the whole theaters were closed on that. But it's like, yeah, people are going to probably look back and wonder if this decision was the right thing to do or not. I think for us entertainment fans, it was definitely an acceptable, position to be in.
I was initially going to see this one in a theater for like the first time. However, I got a little bit too ambitious trying to play like marathon catch up like early in the morning, and by the time third was like halfway through, I realized that I literally had no chance to actually make it to the showtime without going on later and later, and that I didn't want to do that. So I just decided opt to use HBO Max to watch it after I finished the third one at my leisure.
And would you say that it was still a pretty enveloping experience for you?
Well, yeah, I have the whole home theater set up downstairs with the boom sound system, everything.
That's great. So yeah, Val, some people did suggest they don't know if it was worth theater experience unless you're like diehard Matrix faithful. They say you could watch it on Max. But yeah, so I know some of us were like concerned when we saw there was not even like we knew they were filming this thing, and that's when the worldwide pandemic happened. So things got put on hold for a little while. But there were always shots of like Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu being on motorcycle. In fact, now when they were confirmed to be coming back, we're wondering how. And
Okay, how? Because last I recall, one of them was literally vaporized mentally in a huge sacrifice that literally might as well be screaming out, "I am Jesus!" And the other was basically made into a pincushion.
yeah, on top of that, what was just as concerning for some people was the who wasn't on the call sheet, like names
The
like
first,
Lawrence.
yeah, Lawrence Fishburne, Morpheus, aka the one that literally helped bring Neo and Trinity together, literally had explained what the Matrix was essentially, along with Neo, the other face of the Matrix, to the point where he's literally the forefront of the MMO we discussed.
Yeah,
It's basically like trying to do a Star Wars movie without Han Solo, is what we're saying.
but
I mean,
yeah,
John
there.
starting a Star Wars sequel without Han Solo. Okay, my analogy is just kind of sorry, but the point is, it's basically like, okay, you got like this guy and this guy. Let's forget this other guy.
But yeah, it is. So that was and like I said, this is only one which
Okay,
has.
wait, I got it. It's basically like you're bringing back the Three Musketeers, but then you feel like, the third one doesn't really matter. Let's just get rid of them.
But yeah, no, I think it was a narrative reason why. But yeah, like I said though, this is also Lily only running no Lana running half of the scene without her sibling because her sibling opted not to return due to the producing another show at the time, and also well, that was sort of part of her life that I wasn't really interested at the time from revisiting. So they respectively, decided, okay, going in solo might be the best for this one. But you gotta admit, though, it does make for a very, it was a very, personal film, while also being,
Very cathartic.
yeah. So I think I saw it that way. It definitely stuck out to me that this is definitely a voice, even if it is not as fine tuned as the two operating on full steams from 20 years ago. There's still something going on there that kept me enwrapped.
I would
So
also argue that it seems like they kind of recaptured. It's mostly Lana recaptured something that they managed to do. What is it, like almost
18,
22 years ago?
but I would say by the time this recording probably goes up, but yeah, and it's just that I mean they got Keanu on board. I mean that's the big deal. Whatever she wrote probably got Keanu involved to say, "Oh, I got to be a part of this," because we all know Keanu has a reputation as being the nice guy, but
Or the excellent,
yeah, basically yeah, he's
kind
really
of funny dude. But
no,
then
he's
when the
like he's
Matrix came, then Keanu realized, hey, I can actually pull off action movies pretty well. And then
yeah.
we kind of had stuff like Constantine and some other movies, I think. And then it's when the John Wick movies came that people realized, holy shit, this is like watching Neo if you went batshit insane.
And hell, John Wick has become his own way to describe things. Like we were describing the titular character Gabriel of I use that word wrong. We were using the character of Gabriel and Malignant, saying he became the John Wick of slashers with the way he did shit. So like you can now say that the John Wick of X is now a theme because of how Keanu really made those films badass.
And plus, he also not only has he become an action star, he's also become like a very personable guy, as being like a guy in a tumbleweed in a SpongeBob movie who seems to know all the answers, or like appearing in an E3 showing. Oh God, I really had used to have E3 showings. Anyway,
Where he yelled
showing up
out,
at an Xbox. Hey, you're awesome.
yeah, someone called him, "You're breathtaking." He thought, no, you're breathtaking, and like that's become his thing. So, but I think he's because they did say he got a phone call from the Wachowskis saying how I have an idea for the fourth film, and he's like, "Oh, that's nice and all, but if I recall, I'm dead, right? Like, didn't I die?" Well, yes. Well, here's how we're gonna. And then she detailed the story to him, and he thought it was such a beautiful and personal thing. He had to be a part of it, and I'm sure the same thing worked for Carrie Ann when she decided she would come back. So yeah, and she did
So
have talks with Hugo. She did have talks with Hugo Weaving, and he did admit he was enthralled by the idea, but literally scheduling, he could not back out of it. He couldn't pull out, prevented him from traveling to be able to do so. So alas, as much
oh,
as
is
he,
that the reason? I thought it's like kind of aging out a little bit.
oh no, he
I'm,
just
I'm, I'm just saying we didn't see him as being Red Skull on Vormir, and not see him as being Smith here. I thought it was like, how old is he again? Maybe he's not that much of a spring chicken these days.
I think he's actually going to be doing stuff for Amazon for that Lord of the Rings show, I think.
Oh my
Well,
god!
man,
So
look,
you're telling me that that Lord of the Rings project is going to be a reboot, but it's going to reuse similar elements. Gee,
no,
we
he's
see.
not. He's not in it, but the character of Elrond is going to be in it.
Like I said, gee, we seem to be doing that pretty repeatedly with other franchises these days.
Yeah. So, yeah, I forget why he didn't return. He didn't want to go through the makeup of Red Skull again. I think that was his issue with the Avengers. But yeah, um, he couldn't show up for this one just because he couldn't back out of scheduling. This was happening at the same time. So,
But to
um,
be fair, the replacement for him, I don't want to say it surpasses him, but it kind of evolved into his next level, I
well,
guess you could
yeah,
say.
it's like evolving from a Charmeleon to a Charizard. Still the same vibe, but all new energy.
And wings. Someone call you a
Anyways,
Draco.
so I mean, yeah. So obviously we were confused, and the trailer started coming out, and I think, in Derek's opinion, it came up with one of the most perfect trailers. And in his mind, you only needed this one trailer to sell the movie for him.
You didn't need a second one at all, especially considering the fact that the second one literally kind of spoils some, big important things in the movie. And if I recall, didn't the first Matrix movie kind of advertise in a vague sense of trying to veer away about explaining what the Matrix is?
Although Matrix,
And then that was literally what led it to being a big success.
yeah, but again, Matrix 2 and 3's trailers pretty much said the whole plot too. Look, I guess it's in character. But yeah,
But I don't know. Maybe it was kind of they were doing it in sort of metatextual sense because like most movies always usually like to spoil what goes on in their trailers just so that they could like worm bait their customers in to watch it
on
because
top of that,
nostalgia bait.
On top of that, most Part 2 trailers are also, I think they want to be like, you gave away everything, and to quote Baron Zemo, did it? And I think you're expecting to be like, I think it did. But yeah, not as bad as the Terminator
Although,
franchise.
although
Oh,
a funny
man.
counter thing is that some second attempt trailers usually turn out to be for the better. Like a certain Blue Hedgehog got their second trailer for the first run, and just recently Uncharted got their second trailer, and that one, a lot of people are just turning heads, going, "You know what? I can actually give this movie a chance."
Yeah. But that first trailer was, sung to the White Rabbit song. It was perfectly sung with it, and it gave you enough questions of, oh look, well there's that, and there's that, but what does that mean, and what does that mean, and you just get so into it, and then it ends with that funny meta thing of, after all these years, finally coming back to where it all started. Back
Back
to
to
the
the Matrix.
although I think it was worrisome to Derek that they didn't reveal a title for it until they started teasing the movie, and he goes, "Resurrections! Oh my gosh, let's look at the list of resurrection movies that didn't quite hit it."
Let's see. There's Aliens. There's
Aw.
Halloween. There's too many to list, but each one is just more sad to name.
And I'm sure some people still feel that this one might actually still fall on that curse. I think you and I respectively disagree with that notion, but I wouldn't fault people.
And I feel like I found way more people that disagree with that notion as well. Might agree certain aspects, but still feel like they came away pretty entertained.
Yeah, yeah. But I know. So what's funny is this became my most anticipated film of December, and you're saying, how can you say that when No Way Home is coming up? Well, I had a feeling I was going to enjoy No Way Home regardless of what they showed or not showed, but Matrix was a wild card. This could have gone either way.
It's literally like
And
a coin toss. Is it gonna go the right way or the wrong way? Are we gonna get the blue pill option, or it's just same mundane, just expecting what's like any attempts to revitalize the franchise happens, or would we get a red pill, which would shake things up and finally revitalize this franchise that's been dormant for nearly almost 2 decades?
I think we got a purple pill. 'Cause it's kind of both of those things when you think about it.
Although I would say it's at least a mix of both as well, but it was kind of that was the point of what the movie was trying to say. It was kind of like admitting like straight off the bat, it's like, yeah, this is basically a retread, but it's a retread that we're gonna take the time to like sit down and question how people interpret certain franchises they love. Like, is it the action that draws them in? Like the cool kung fu fights, the CGI, or
Well,
is it like the messages underneath that actually drew them in? Because the Matrix was known for that, to the point where there's literally books that were made at the time of how people really believed that we were living in a Matrix, and considering that the state of the world we were in was kind of a little bit starting to get a little more controlly. Yeah, it was kind of easy to understand where people were coming from.
well, I guess we must be in a better program because right now I think like he says, the first Matrix was inherently perfect, but no one could accept the program. Entire crops were lost. People think we lack the coding language to describe your ideal world utopia. We found out the human condition is experienced through you define yourselves through misery, and I'm like, well, the 2020 must be a hell of a test for us.
Actually, I feel like the reason why the original Matrix didn't work is, well, it did for a couple years, but then people just kind of got tired of like everything being hunky dory and a okay, literally nothing changing, nothing shaking at norm, nothing pushing their boundaries or shaking their like challenges. It's like why people tend to play video games. Like we need that kind of itch of accomplishment and stakes and like trying to get past the challenge, the next, and so on.
Yeah, and not in that stupid way that
It's basically a stalemate.
yeah, yeah, not in that.
You ever see that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward got literally the perfect place ever, and
Oh
it
yeah,
go, and then
yeah.
slowly and slowly and slowly it becomes a bore, and then he literally becomes chaotic.
Yeah, that was a good episode, by the way. So, yeah. So, point is, Matrix Resurrections is people wondering, is this going to be new? Is it going to be nostalgia bait? Because that's become a term that's really been, really felt up in recent years with a lot of these movies saying, "Hey, you remember this?" Like one of the people that say was a guilty offender that was the Force Awakens and Jurassic World, especially Jurassic World, with a lot of like, let's stop the movie for a second to take a trip down memory lane. And I myself love that, but I could see why some people say you're kind of just feeding off people's joy of that movie and grafting it onto this movie, which has done nothing to earn it, for some people's point of view. And there's others that have tried to do that, and you go, You're kind of wincing, going, should that be done or not? Like, I think some people accused, I haven't seen this film yet, but some people have accused Ghostbusters Afterlife of having the chance to be its own thing, but it keeps getting shackled by the
Then
expectation of
I
we
don't
got to call
understand
back.
how people are thinking that. You got this movie after a response to not liking the 2016, which was literally trying to do its own thing, and I even recognized it was trying to do its own thing, and I enjoyed that different thing because it was different. But no, you just wanted to see certain like old farts return, just wearing the onesies, but now with gray hair. Oh, except one of them died, so we really can't do that kind of story now, could we? And then
So,
Afterlife came in and said, actually, there is a way, and
and
you
yeah,
still hate on that one. Like,
yeah, but other
what do
people
you still
say that
want? Sometimes I don't understand.
another one that people accuse that of was, I think, some of the Terminator films kind of get a little too bad. Hey, remember this? Remember, especially Genesis. Ooh boy, Genesis.
Well, Terminator has kind of a little bit of the identity crisis with itself.
Yeah,
I can understand where that one's coming from. That I'm surprised that we're not. I'll be surprised if we don't literally have a No Way Home style entry with the Terminator movies.
oh my God, that'd be so funny if we get like
Sarah
Christian
Con,
Bale,
like the Lena Headey from the TV show meeting
Emilia
with
Clarke
the,
from
the
Genesis.
the Game of Thrones Genesis, and even bringing in. Well, it's gonna be hard to bring her back in because I think she was kind of like, nope, Dark Fate's it. I'm done.
And her character had a good way to, ride off in that one too. But bring back the Danny character or Grace, Mackenzie's character. Oh my God, she was such a. They misfairly targeted her. I thought. Anyway, we're really getting off track. The point is, people are saying that the current state of the entertainment industry is a lot of like, you know, regurgitation and callback, and hell, Matrix itself opens up making fun of that notion.
It
Like,
literally opens up. I don't. For a second, I was actually kind of afraid. I was afraid to say, "Oh no, we're actually really just going beat for beat on this." Sorry.
because they
Where
did
it
the
literally
same.
opens up like the first movie. A phone call, interesting voice in the background. It's like the screen is pitch black with text scrolling over. There's like something is tracing, and then we enter through the green matrix like number sequencing, and then it's literally the police ambushing Trinity. The introduction to the agents. Our man can handle one little girl. Nope, nope, no, sir, your men are already dead.
But that's not Hugo Weaving. To quote Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged.
Well, yes, but no. But
Yeah.
yes. But no? Yes. No.
Yeah, so yeah, that one does funny. You almost think you're going to be getting a beat for beat, but you have like a new character observing stuff, and then you find out things kind of different. Even she's saying, "This is all wrong. This is different," and then things go south from there. So it's so funny how the movie itself plays on your whole. Oh, we're going to literally do this beat for beat. Although me being that giddy continuity guy, I got so. I mean, even though I saw that ugly logo for a split second, at least it turned green and resembled the other logo with those horns. Because I was concerned.
You really have it out with that poor Warner Bros. Logo. It's literally just WB. It
No, no,
it
not
just got slimmer is all.
not the logo.
What are you size shaming now? Is that what
Not,
it is?
not the logo itself, but the sequence. You used to have that inside the golden reflection. You see the studio a lot, then the whole thing kind of just rolls out. Instead, you have this. I don't know, but it, thank God
But we
Godzilla
do see the
vs.
studio a lot, and then it's in the sheen of the logo as it just
Kong.
arrives.
But I do love how the logo itself was green this time with the Matrix horns. And I thought, okay, at least it had that going for it. But then I got super giddy when it was just that ramen recipe. Yes, it was a ramen recipe rolling down the coding, and then it just says the Matrix in plain text, and then it just comes up with the resurrections. I'm going, yes, it continually followed the way the other movies did their intro, because there's some movies that have a habit of they want to spice up their intros and they depart radically from what came before. Case in point, the Jurassic World franchise was kind of shocking when you watch Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and it has this whole animated lava sequence to give you the actual Jurassic Park logo, and you go,
I mean,
The other
I,
two
I, I mean, I didn't mind that. I thought it just kind of pumped up. It's literally like the death of the islands. We've like grown up. Another one. Table that one. This thing's gonna be like stocked higher than what's anyone's gonna find under the Christmas tree.
Oh man, but yeah. Point is, I mean, they will change things up sometimes in a way where you go like, okay, I get it, right? But I'm a sucker. Call me comfort, call me sentimental, but every time a franchise is ongoing and they still retain their opening scene titles, like the font and everything, I get a little giddy. Like the Halloween follow-ups recently have. Oh, that's another one that did it. Sorry, the Halloween
Oh,
follow-ups.
oh my God! Like another one that didn't like mess up the whole like following the title sequence was literally Home Sweet Home Alone.
Oof.
It's
Oh,
like give shit to 3 or 4 or even 5, but at least they. Well, no, 5 kind of messed that one up too. But at least 3 or 4 were still like zooming in on the house. And it's like the logo. It's got their own themes playing.
but yeah. But like I said, the Halloween movies changed them, but at least Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills made the trouble of looking like the font from the 70s film. And even
Oh,
the
I can't wait for the extended cut of that one.
even the Predator, as stupid as the movie got, still they had the sense to show black space with that same thin font saying 20th Century Fox presents a gold and silver production in the Predator, just like the original Predator from way back when. I know, but point is, Matrix opened up with the exact same title sequence. Although you could kind of joke, it's that Mortal Kombat Annihilation joke where you joke like, "This is Resurrections, right?" No, it's literally the same intro, just with Resurrections plastered on it. Because that was a joke with Annihilation, where it's the same exact fire and everything. The only thing that's off is a few different sound cues, and you realize this is the same exact title sequence, except with that that fat Annihilation Texas shadow over the logo.
Honestly, the saddest thing is that keeping that same intro sequence is really the best thing that movie does.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, okay, we're in for something good, and then the words turn into Annihilation, and it's like it just sharded. I'm sorry, folks. Every time I think about that intro, because you're like into it up until the words blow up into Annihilation, but it's even the sound effects like a squelching fart. Anyway,
And here I am wondering where this conversation came in our Mortal Kombat episode.
you're right. But anyway, point is, Don Davis did not return to do the score, but the new crew did a good job of keeping in favor without actually rehashing a lot of his themes, but still homaging it when appropriate, especially for that opening sequence, since it is basically the first.
Like, literally, note for note, minus the overused like circular slow mo, because I think even Lana realized, oh, God, if I do that, everyone's just gonna groan at that. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip over it and just have Trinity just running through walls.
But yeah, and so we go through this, and then that all the head trippy stuff happens when they start going through a lot of backways and portals this time around, and then
I got excited because there was the back doors, just like introduced to the sequels, because that was the only thing that actually got my interest. It's like, you mean all this time there was a backdoor and access through Matrix, which we could have gone in and out without the agents knowing, and you're only just showing us now?
What's funny is it's showing us the new stuff, but also old stuff, but also showing us new stuff. Like the new model agents are a little more aggressive, and you got like operators actually able to interact with the
Without cell phones, because just like nowadays where we have like
Bluetooth headsets.
Bluetooth headsets and Skype calling, now they have like generated integrated like imagery.
So yeah, what's funny is when we finally get caught up with the story with Neo, with Thomas Anderson, Keanu Reeves. There's
And
a lot.
and then it's and you all think it's like, oh, I wonder how they're gonna like explain how he's been trapped in this alternate matrix all this time. Maybe he's like actually stuck reliving the past, and well, you're kind of half right.
We find out Matrix is a game in this world.
Yep.
The trilogy.
The original trilogy, all three play out exactly as they do, just as video games.
I laughed.
Which I'll admit, like, stepping back and thinking of it and noticing that the cutscenes, I'm assuming, are, like, live action shots, it made me wonder, it's like, you're telling me that in this world, Thomas Anderson managed to do a BMF game that trounced Wing Commander?
Yeah, in 1999 technology.
Like,
but
that's gonna be like mind blowing.
Well, no wonder he got Game Awards. But yeah, that's the thing. It gets to the meta where you find out that the movies we watched in this part are considered, fiction themselves. And the culture ender accepts the fiction of it too. Like, man, that thing changed the game. And it's like a little meta pointing to sorry about using the word meta a lot, but pointing to the actual movie, saying that movie changed the game. In universe, that game changed everything. So it's like, it's so funny outside looking in. On top of that, I actually bought that Trinity figure that is on his desk. I actually have that hanging right
I did giggle. It's like, oh, I bet Jonesy is just excited to say, wow, what timing, and like, it's almost like Providence almost.
Actually, you know me so well.
But I was kind of playing along. It's like, okay, maybe they don't call it the Matrix in this, like, it's the same stories, but like saw there's a name that's called binary. It's like, oh, okay, like binary code. So that's what they just call it. And then they just flat out say, yeah, so Warner Brothers just needs us to do another Matrix. and I just had to sit there and go, are we sure this is a behind-the-scenes like discussion that was just put on the script?
And what's funny is they do have them, like the executive that is dealing with Thomas on Friendly Level, played by Jonathan Groff. So Thomas is just telling him how, listen, this is going to happen. Come back to the Matrix, and we'll go ahead and it's going to happen with or without us. So we want to abort it. And I think that's what the Wachowskis were faced with. Like, we're going to do a fourth movie with or without you, and they're thinking, that's our baby. We don't really want to see it tampered with too badly. So
yeah, not gonna lie, I would actually have been afraid if like the Matrix was announced and Wachowskis were not involved in any of it, and be like, But I think I might opt for the blue pill on this one.
But yeah, so speaking of blue pills, Thomas is sure taking a whole lot of them, but we'll get to him there. We'd actually describe it. But it's funny is they actually do talk about like the Matrix did this, or the bullet time was a big game changer, or how people want to fire off their brains. It's very synaptic. Or we
don't want to hear discussions or philosophies. It's all action, bang, bang, bang.
Fun of the Reloaded sequel with the architect and shit.
And funny enough, one person discussed, like, we don't want this to be, like, a literal retread. Why not? Reboot Cell.
And you're just going, oh, and you're laughing.
Wow, you really just hit the nail right on the head, didn't you, Lana?
Well, yeah, and the point is, yeah, there's a lot of that. And some people think that might be too self-indulgent in that type of humor, but I was along for the ride with that. Plus, they do a nice little montage of them playing the White Rabbit song.
Yeah, but it also kind of helps since, like, in the middle of, like, the montage conversation, they do point out that what made the Matrix be a game changer, especially movies, is that it was kind of a big mind fuck. Like, even in the first movie, you didn't know what was real or what was, like, a dream that Neo was having. Like, you would be at a party, at a rave, seeing Trinity, and then literally just be waking up. Or literally facing a scary-ass interrogation where his mouth is sealed and, like, a body invader is entering his stomach, and he wakes up as if it was, like, a really twisted, sick imagination of a nightmare.
Like Nightmare on Elm Street, kind of.
So, oh my god, and yeah, speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street, this is almost kind of teetering on the level of meta-narrative, like how Wes Craven's New Nightmare did, where it's, like, these movies really changed, and we just need another one. Where this was, and it's... But back to the conversation, they do say it was basically like, you don't know if this is, like, our world, where it's talking about the Matrix as if it's the game, or if it is, like, a new sub-level of or like even improved Matrix that's just kind of like kept Thomas in this limbo.
So do you feel that that type of narrative hijacked a lot of stuff, or do you felt that it was, well, was it subtle enough, or was it too over the head, you think?
I honestly think it was really needed. It was because like I did kind of head to my head and say, okay, so this trailer is essentially saying that the world is still matrixed, but now we're just like kind of progressed to modern day. But like knowing the context of the movie, it makes sense that it's like so. It makes sense that the Matrix would be kind of still based on like how like the end of the 20th century was like, where cell phones were only just becoming a commodity.
Yeah, and also the
But,
funny thing is that
or like how computers could actually change the world. Whereas here it's like levels of like how much we're like living our lives or behind screens and just like ignoring like the world. It's like that scene where like Neo's in the elevator and looking at a bunch of people just looking at their phones and not just it's kind of like stuck in their own little world. It's almost like a new like
yeah,
you remember how much Morpheus was talking about how the Matrix was originally made to control people to think that they're just living out this mundane existence, whereas now in this one, the supposed reality that we thought we were in is basically still doing that same thing, just with smartphones and buzzwords and buzz talks and like a very seemingly safe, okay environment that's just not feeling threatening. Hell, agents aren't even a thing in this place. Instead, it's like bots, which actually just take on like the looks of people. It's like cuts through their fat. Essentially, it's literally like hiding in plain sight more than agents do. Because not gonna lie, the agents kind of stand out just a tad bit. I get it;
well,
it's the '90s, and that was like FBI and how they functioned. But like, ask anyone these days, it's like, hey, you see that agent guy over there? What the hell is he doing? You think?
yeah, but like I said, as hell, no, don't forget they threw us subtly out the window when they decided to pancake cars like nothing. Remember? But yeah, the thing too is that the movie does go for it. It does make some callbacks, like, oh look, here's like the kung fu fight scene during the first training montage, or this is kind of like the mirror, or there's literally footage of the movie playing in the background at parts where even he says, I think something familiar, like I think Modal Morpheus jokingly says, "Let us nostalgia helps ease people in," basically when because he does the whole at last speech again.
In the bathroom of all places,
Yeah,
and
I mean, so yeah,
wearing
there's a bit of
the
a,
wrong color suit.
but
Look,
he does show up.
look.
Yeah,
I know we kind of joked that the original Matrix movies were essentially like just BDSM with kung fu, but come on, at least like darken it up. You look like you just ripped out of the like wardrobe department of Dumb and Dumber.
or the mask. Yeah. So yeah, they do that a lot. Like at one point, a character that we find out someone else actually shows up and actually does a quote right out of the other movie just because we gotta put two and two of like, oh, it's actually this program reborn and stuff. But yeah, and there's actually a character who literally is just brought up in the funniest way for friggin' friggin' Derek laughed at when that French asshole the Merovingian shows up as a
It looks
homeless
like
crazy
he looked like a freaking hobo.
just shouting gibberish and pissed off at Neil for ruining everything.
Ah, not seeing my own spin-off.
Yeah. So yeah, just people do say you could have cut his part out of the movie and it really wouldn't have changed much. You just needed to say, "Hey, we even got back this guy." Remember? And I think for Derek, at least he brought some satisfaction seeing that smug guy brought down several pegs.
Plus, he's essentially an exile, and that's like they're essentially a program so they're just kind of wandering around in the background and just trying to live out their lives.
and even though they're supposed to be deleted. Yeah.
But yes, I'm wondering how much we're actually good. I feel like I was kind of spoiling just a little bit. I don't know if that's too forward or not.
No, we'll keep going along with it. But the thing is that yeah, they do callbacks, but not in a way that feels like, oh, we just so we can laugh at it. Like they say stuff like they name drop people like this is better than Dozer's Moonshine. And if you're someone who watched them, like, I know who Dozer is, but they do it in a way where I felt right for the story that they do stuff like that, but they didn't overly rely on let's do a shot for shot remake of this part and that part. Every now and then they'll throw it in the middle to spice it up, like during the fight scene with the exec. He does do the multiple arm punch that Hugo Weaving did way back during their subway fight, but they don't go as far. Well, hell, they even show old footage. Like you see, like the part where Smith and Neo are like shooting each other, in that bullet time loop, or actually they show the bullet time scene. People remember bullet time and actually cut to it, so they do that, but it's kind of feels like you're being subjugated in a way like that Neo would be subjugated to. And I know I'm going with that, but point is, it does do it, but I think it did it in a way that worked for me because there's some movies that do try to do the same thing, and you kind of say, it feels a bit forced. Like in the most recent Spider-Man movie, I'm not going to say what or how, but a meme got directly quoted. I mean, it wasn't a meme back then when it was quoted, but it's become a meme since then. So
I said that I'm a scientist myself.
yeah, they actually stuck it in. I laughed. I go, I don't know how I feel about that line, but yeah, like, would you? I think the stuff they did here, like the At Last and Mr. Anderson and all that stuff, I think that worked for what Neil was going through. As I love how he's like, okay, that's a good segue. Let's go into Neil himself proper. So Keanu Reeves is kind of playing Keanu Reeves, but also playing the Neo we all know as a hapless individual, every man who's like. The thing is, he's kind of in a bit of a depression. He's got therapy now. That's the thing.
Which, going back to why people might be a little bit peeved at the whole meta narrative, it makes sense, especially when the movie explains it. Essentially, they have made the great story of what Neo has achieved and just made it into basically a fiction, a piece of fiction.
Game.
It's literally, it just trying to even insinuate that it's real, just kind of get scoffed and laughed. It's like, oh, right, it's like the games I designed. I get it.
Yeah.
And like even the analysts will try to. I don't know if he has actually a name, but this the Neil Patrick Harris character is trying to insinuate that Thomas has literally was able to project his deepest feelings and regrets and difficulties into these stories of these games, but now that that story is done and over with, he just feels like he's just trying to grasp onto a lost form of art, and even tries to say that making it another one is it almost took your voice a little bit, but let's try to see if we can actually help make it your voice.
Yeah,
this is your story we're talking about. This is your character that you've projected into. This is your form of therapy. Now, how are the blue pills medication? That do you need another prescription of that?
And what's funny is that so every time something crazy happens that's matrixy, let's say his boss's mouth filling up or something like that, or being attacked by a gunfire and those stuff, I think the analyst will always show up to tell Neo, listen, that's just your mind projecting. He says one of the dangerous parts whenever an artist can't decide illusion from reality, and that can put others at risk. So Neo doesn't know
especially since they insinuate that Thomas in this world almost, probably not intentionally, but almost committed suicide thinking that he could fly like he did in the games that he created. And that's what he's trying to work past, trying to discern the real from the fiction. Because the games that he made were so life-changing that might have gone a little bit too much to blur the line.
Yeah, some people felt the same way happens with some actors get too much into character and they kind of have a hard time getting out of it. I mean, tragically, the most recent example we all think of is like Heath Ledger, stuff like that. So, yeah,
Or at least on a lighter note, Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool, or
yeah,
is Deadpool
yeah.
playing Ryan Reynolds, or I'm like so
So,
confusing.
yeah, so yeah, and I know people are saying, well, this isn't the I know Kung Fu guy. This is just some lost, sad, depressed guy until the Matrix really pulls him out of this reality, and then he's like, then he starts to remember stuff. Like he stops denying. They're suppressing him with all that blue pill stuff and everything like that until he decides to just say hell with it, and then it just
But
gets way too real for him, and he's fine.
decides to actually take in on it. He actually stopped taking his meds at one point.
Which, if you're someone who actually requires medication, we don't advise that as a sensible thing. But anyway, yeah,
How,
you,
but we are like, well, that's not a very safe thing to do. But if you do feel like you might have been our savior at one point, or needed to come back to break the system down, uh, don't be afraid to at least try. Just have another bottle of pills to the side. Just the world's really messed up. We really need. Everything's
yeah,
fine. Everything's all right. Moving on.
okay, but yeah, so yeah, the once he actually gets out of the world and finds out, yes, that machine stuff is real. He is alive. He did die, but he did come back, and he don't know why. So he has to go ahead and go through this, but he realizes one thing that's been keeping him up at night. One thing that's been, keeping him is he meets this lady in the coffee shop, Tiffany, which we'll get into more in depth, who looks like his action character Trinity from the game. So he's like, that's what's been pulling him and calling to him is talking with this mom, this lady who's had a life, but he feels like he's known her all his whole life. So that's like, how do you explain that?
But
But so as it
yes,
turns out, yeah,
it turns out that all this time that he has been undergoing the whole Matrix thing. Only it's a new improved Matrix that seems to be powered by him and Trinity, both resurrected.
so yeah, the well, this is a good segue into the thing. So we obviously the New Blood has a reference for him. They want to find him. New Blood includes Bugs, played by Jessica Henwick, who you might remember as one of the Sand Sisters from Game of Thrones, and is also part of Black Squadron in The Force Awakens. She didn't return in the last or Rise, but her character did live on. But yeah, she was Jess Pavan, I believe her name was. But yeah,
So yeah,
she
this she was basically like the Trinity of the new, but also kind of the Morpheus. It, we feel like a lot of these characters are kind of amalgamations to like the old versions. But
mhm, yeah.
but Bugs is essentially very curious about like how it might be possible that this legend, the original, the one that like literally stopped the man versus machine war like 60 years ago. And yes, it was 60 years ago in universe. Is somehow still alive and is still vital and awake and literally still behind the machine city. Not only that, but still like in a very far off tower that's not usually where most pods are.
But yeah, but yeah, so yeah, she's interesting, and she's got her crew of a ship called the Mesomene, I think Mesomene. But yeah, it was
Whatever happened to just naming ships with like simple syllables? Why do we have all these ships that literally have like Y's and J's and like triple C's
biblical
as
name.
like
The
part of their
Nebuchadnezzar. Mhm. But yeah, so we find out that things she has her lovely crew that includes like other people like the like Shepard, Berg, Lexi, who I was very very happy to see, and I'm like I don't know why I grew smitten with her, and when she was getting in a later scene really in trouble, I was like, oh no, please don't let her be that the one, don't let her be Switch.
I am just gonna come out and say it. This is actually a movie where literally none of the side characters die. Like that was the thing that always itched and irritated me in the first one, especially. I love the first one, but man, like half of the Nebuchadnezzar just got made down chumps by that Cipher asshole.
Mouse didn't even get a chance to be betrayed. He got blown away by agents.
Ugh. And then like constantly like as the sequels went on, it's like, hey, here's this guy. Oh gee, I hope he doesn't die. Oh no, he's dead. Oh, that's a shame. But this one is literally by the end of the movie, I was just kind of like, are are they still alive? They are. Oh my god! Everyone lives, Rose. Justice wants everyone lives.
And we're very sorry if we can't give you much names or anything about them because they really aren't just there to help, supplement Neo's journey without being too depth. I mean, we didn't get to know the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar that well either, but at least they worked off well enough. I think the one I liked was the the neotologist. He was pretty funny.
He was essentially the one that might have figured that the
Modal.
the model that Thomas created subconsciously, very indistinctly, of recreating the original Matrix and inserting certain characters like this new Morpheus, which turns out to not only be like a reimagining of Morpheus, but also a little bit of the very, let's just say, more eccentric part of Agent Smith. Since
Yeah.
since when you get right down to it, both of those characters were literally responsible for Neo awakening from the world of the Matrix. And,
So it's
and
pretty
like
funny
just
that.
just realizing that point, it's like, huh, I guess Smith did inadvertently kind of awaken Neo to all this. Oops.
But yeah. But Bugs is definitely the standout. Jessica Henwick does a great job with her action scenes and her inquisitive nature. But we did say there was a missed opportunity. It would have been so funny since her name is Bugs, as in Bunny, like she said. She has a white rabbit. It would have been funny if she ran into someone like the analyst something says, "What's up, Doc?" But maybe that might have.
I think Lana probably like went through it and went, "Ah, God, that's way too on the nose. Probably didn't help that we literally just had a Space Jam movie where Bugs was kind of made into like a Messiah type figure at the end with that ending, self-sacrifice. Oh wait, no, he's okay. But
Oof. Yeah.
anyways, the real surprise came when this crew is not only just has humans, which we kind of expected, and now there are machines going around.
That's a baby. That giant ass space manatee looking one. I loved that one.
It
That
was
was the one that
it's literally
actually, I
essential
think.
to freeing Neo when he finally awakened and red pilled. And at first he thought it's like the machine that just kind of unhooked and was gonna dump Neo into like especially the garbage disposal. But no, it was kind of very cautious, lifting Neo away and just leading towards the ship. It's like, well, this one is a little bit more gentler than the last one. So
Yeah,
yeah, if anyone ever played Half-Life 2, where the humans after the what was it, the 7-minute war, essentially befriended the aliens that were kind of antagonistic at first. So this is essentially what's like the result of the trilogy that we witnessed.
But yeah, that was great little shocker. And like I said, the Sequoia as the operator is pretty damn funny and sarcastic. And he has the metal arm, and it was so cute when he gave that mantis-looking machine a fist bump for getting a program right. So yeah, this is people were saying, oh well, what the people still plugged in the Matrix and all stuff that movies were for nothing, right? Well, we find out no, it's not for nothing. There really was true peace for a while, and
It's
that means
just that certain humans were kind of expected to actually be on top of the food chain, and the machines were just kind of like know nothing, didn't need them, didn't want them. And hell, even the machines themselves kind of had a little bit of a civil war with their own selves. That one kind of threw me for a loop. It's like, oh, I guess there were actually machines that were kind of tired of all of this like war.
yeah, that was a crazy thing.
Which unfortunately does paint a character that is missing from this in light of, yeah, no, it should have been man good, machines bad, all need to go. It should be Lawrence Fishburne's Morpheus.
We find out we find out that later we go to the city of Io where we see that Zion itself didn't got lost in the purge, but Io is a new city where machines and humans coexist, and we find out that they have a statue to Zion, and that includes Morpheus in his "We're Not Afraid" garb. He was nominated to head council member. But yeah,
I did get excited to learn that a veteran actor did come back, and of all people, it's the one we got to play in the video game with.
Jada Pinkett as Niobe, General Niobe, who can't she's trying to keep this piece together. The city, the last remnant of hope for humanity, where they coexist with machines, and they don't need us screwing with the Matrix to bring trouble back on their heads. But she's not an overt bitch. But it's so funny when she sees Neo. She's the only one that Neo has. You find out that she's also aged as hell because while it's only been 20 years in the Matrix for Neo,
it's 60 years for her. Mm-hmm. It does beg the question: where is Kid in all of this? Oh, I really don't want to believe that he was like no one's lost in Zion, like being focused on like machines bad and all that. I would have figured he would have at least saw like what Neo did to be beneficial for both sides.
But what if he's actually the one that started that whole neotologist thing? What if he was the first neotologist, so to speak, and the other people are like if they do make a sequel, and I hope we do see an old man Michael Popper. They can't call him Kid no more, that's for sure. I mean, maybe he might come up with the
Sage.
Yeah, but it'd be so funny because I think he'd be about the right age. If it's 60 years and he was like barely a teen or something, he would be in like his 60s or something. But yeah, Niobe's back. She runs the ships, and she has a nice little back and forth with Neo. But she knows, we know Trinity's alive, but even getting you out was hard as it is. So you want us to go and risk everything to try to get her out, and who knows if she wants to leave. So, it was.
I do love that they were like really rough with like holding Neo up. It's like even like the guards that were escorting were just kind of like, holy shit, I'm actually escorting a legend.
Yeah, and even in the other Matrix sequels, you notice how it's kind of funny how Neo doesn't really quite know what to make of being everyone's savior. Like people leave him gifts or say, "Pray for my daughter or sister on this ship."
And basically, all he did was just stop a bunch of bullets midair and leapt into an agent and made him explode. And also learned how to fly like Superman.
So
but at least here he understands like, well, I did kind of like went blind for a minute or two, realized I could actually see the machines in the real world, and also inadvertently pretty much saved all of humanity and the Matrix and destroyed a literal viral entity that would have literally fucked either side in any way.
Like you said, this doesn't negate those movies from happening by them still be having a problem. Like Remember, this is the people who have free will could leave, and that's why there was a scarcity in the machines for at war with machines. But it's so I never would have thought I'd see machines on the side or sentience as they call them. They don't want to be called just machines or sentience, to like fighting alongside people and having such unique alien and robotic designs. Like there's this beautiful one that Niobe commands that holds a familiar program, and that one is just a beautiful. It's like a eagle stingray sea turtle. It is just
I always thought it was
oh
just an owl.
it is. I don't know. It is this beautiful. I can't describe it. You gotta see it. It's just one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in a machine.
Yeah, it's nice
And
actually to see like beneficial machine shapes again after seeing the second Renaissance and knowing that they had like simple humanoid features, and then as humanity was more aggressive, they in turn became just as aggressive and ugly, and like it's actually nice that they showed like, oh yeah, this whole like squiddy tentacle thing, it's just not me.
so yeah, and also not only that, programs can now actively be outside the matrix with that little nanotech bead magnetic thing they got going on. So I think we could talk about this guy, old code making new code, which is a question because the modal was using old matrix code. We got that. We mentioned him earlier. There's Morpheus, who's not quite Morpheus. This is modal Morpheus. I mean, they didn't call him Morpheus, but I'm going to call him modal Morpheus as a differentiation because that's who he was found. Who was originally an agent. Like we said, he's a combination of Smith and Morpheus since they were integral in Neo's awakening, and he's played by the talented Yahya Abdul Lateen, who's been making the rounds in a lot of stuff. Recently, you might have seen him as Black Manta in the Aquaman movies. He'll be returning in Lost Kingdom, by the way.
But it's honestly funny to see like a good version of what if an agent actually got free, as opposed to when we literally had parts 2 and 3 show us what would happen if an agent got free and there was literally no way to control him.
Yeah, what's funny is that this is kind of like the. I don't mean to make this comparison, but it's kind of like the "What if a stormtrooper turned good?" question found in Force Awakens.
But it's like a lot of people were worried that we were just going to be trying to same ground and say, oh, it's just going to be machines versus man again, the whole thing. But like this whole section finally just shed light and say, no, those 3 movies do matter. They had an abundant effect. It's really gradual, almost kind of like how our world is nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, they tapped into something, right? So yeah, so we got there is a Smith though. The executive Smith turns out to actually be Agent Smith, played by the talented Jonathan Groff. And oh my gosh, he plays the character with such gusto. It's so funny because he starts off as like that
It's just
boss
kind of like a chump, a boss, but it's not an asshole boss. It's just kind of like a you're my number one guy. You literally just changed the face of this company and how people perceive us, and I kind of ask you to kind of do it again. It's no pressure. Okay, slight pressure. One of those literally at our doorstep, but I'm definitely sure that enough time has passed and you might have an idea or two.
Yeah, it's funny. And then once Neo's grasp on reality starts going away from him, this executive starts showing some familiar ticks. Like the funny bit was when there's a firefight going on. He's freaking out, what's going on? But then he sees the pistol, the Desert Eagle, and decides to go old habits take over.
Mr. Anderson!
And then he starts firing at him. And oh man, like so you find out, yes, this was indeed the program Smith given an upgrade in Michelle, but he was programmed to be like Neo's mentor to like push him along in his company, kind of a suppressor, and then he did not like being manipulated in such a way. In fact, in the middle of the movie, we're surprised to find out that this Smith actually forms an uneasy alliance with Neo, wanting to get his hands on the guy who did do this to him. And it's so funny, it's satisfying to see him like stalk said person in his aggression. And but yeah, it's funny because when he's trying to do a straight Hugo Weaving impersonation, it kind of feels a little off. But when he gets to do his own thing, but you still feel he has the same energy as Hugo Weaving without being an imitation, I think that's when
He's
Groff's
definitely
character
got
really
like
picks
the
up.
same smug and bravado and just feeling like, the world is a big place, and I definitely have a purpose to find what to do with my life.
And on top of that, I think he's become chummy enough with Neo to call him Tom a lot more. Like, see, Tom and I have a complicated relationship, stuff like that.
It's like, oh, you have no idea. It's essentially Thomas's evil twin, kinda. Brother from another mother.
Because people always did say that theory, like, what if Smith was the one prophesized to bring order to the Matrix, and Neo was the trigger to help, him awaken, and the two need each other to basically fill the prophecy. I don't know. There's some theories that go like that, but yeah. Jonathan Groff, some people think he's a downgrade from Hugo, because let's face it, no one can match the same level as that guy's manic energy. I mean, he made the freaking Decepticon leader impersonating in his first film. I say first film because we all know what happened afterward, but still.
Just basically Frank Welker after. Was that really Frank Welker doing the voice in 2 and 3?
No, it was still Hugo for 2 and 3, and
okay, so it's just the only movies that we actually care about. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was funny though. Yeah, Jonathan Groff, I really did like his character, and he did carry his own in the action when he's like looking super intense and like karate chopping Keanu Reeves into a pillar and all that stuff.
It's just,
but
I essentially told this to Josie. It's like, I know it's a different face, but like it's still like, I know the lore of this agent. I know what he's done, and he's essentially just gone from like so many me's down to just this one, and you can still feel that he's still got like that wild card energy to him.
And hell,
it's like anytime he appears, it's like your attention is really directed to him.
This is true.
Kind of like what Hugo Weaving did when he was playing Smith.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is he still does that classic agent dodge way where they like do that after image effect to show that they're moving really fast. But yeah, I liked him, So, but it was so funny when he's talking to when people first met. They said our first meeting had the energy of an interrogation gone wrong, and I'm like, I get what he means. But yeah, but yeah, I think Modal Morpheus is more funnier outside of the Matrix when he's his little magnetic bead form.
It's nice to have a Morpheus that actually like knows vocabulary beyond providence, prophecy, fate.
That was him for most of the sequels, unfortunately, because he was interesting in the first movie, but
like
second movie he should.
I feel like that was kind of a detachment from his first one, because at least in the first one, he says like, "Why do you hate fate? Because I don't like the idea of not being in control." That's exactly what we're looking for, Neo. And then suddenly it's like, no, it must be the prophecy. It has to follow the prophecy. It must prophecy, blah, 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 blah. And the prophecy's never helped anyone in any of these damn franchises.
Basically, his dialogue wheel is, I believe in Neo. We must trust the prophecy. We must hear word from the Oracle. Those are like his 3 dialogue choices on the dialogue wheel. Every conversation. I must consult the... It's basically... I don't mean to make fun of it. It's basically Raiden's joke of... What must we do? I don't know. I must consult the Elder Gods first. There's a new invasion. What do we do? I must consult with the Elder Gods. The Elder Gods haven't consulted me yet. Like,
I must consult the Elder Gods. The Elder Gods are dead. I must consult the Elder Gods about this.
Sorry. But yeah, so this Morpheus has a personality. He's not the same Morpheus because that Morpheus died, but this Morpheus 2.0.
I like to think it's like Thomas remembering the best parts of Morpheus putting into this character.
Mm-hmm. But it's funny how he had to be the one to be freed, and how he was going through his own matrix. Like his modal had his own matrix going on of living in a repeating world until he found that mirror and realized, holy shit, what's going on? So when Bugs talks to him while being pursued, he just takes off his earplug and asks, "So you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?" And then from there, it's crazy. But okay, so speaking of baddie, so if it ain't Smith and is not the baddie and the machines are the baddie, well, obviously, well, who is? Well, we go back to Neil Patrick
I
Harris.
totally called it as soon as he appeared in the trailer. It's like bad guy, or at the very least, a obstacle that Neo has to overcome.
We don't use that
Because
word crazy
it's
around here.
I just can't buy for a fact that a guy that literally wears the same shade of blue as these new blue pills can't possibly be the antagonist that's really keeping Neo like stuck to this loop.
Is he an analyst, his psychiatrist? But it just makes me think back to that joke from Spider-Man 2002 when he's all look for jobs in computers. You got computer salesman, computer analyst. My God, even the computers need
He's
analysts.
Alice these days.
In this case, yeah, the analyst. But yeah, it's funny because he comes off as very confident. Listen, Thomas, you're just going to an episode. Follow my voice. He's very comforting, and you know something's off when they're trying to break him out the second time because he rejects the first time.
And he
Hero's
sees
journey.
him in the mirror. And he's like, no, this is just another illusion. You're having another freak out. But just follow my voice. Just feel my hand. This is reality right here. And like, you're not freaking out about this. You know about this. You knew all along, you son of a bitch. You've been feeding this bastard like detox blue pills. You've been comatosing this guy for 60 straight years, you son of a bitch.
So yeah, and it's so funny. Once all pretenses are dropped and you find out he's the it's me Austin bad guy moment, he just starts dropping all the niceties and the gentle psychiatrist talk. He's talking about how, oh, you humans, it's not about facts. My predecessor was all about facts. This Matrix was more about feelings. If you got nothing but feelings that make you feel good, you're happier than pigs and shit, stuff like that.
That kind of blew my mind a little bit. It's like how many times have I like scrolled through and realized that find people that they're like, I was so moved by this story. This story means so much. These characters mean so much to me, and I just want them to be done right. And it's like, you son of a bitch, you nailed it.
Yeah, so people make a joke like, should we be agreeing with the bad guy speech? But yeah, the analyst is correct, and I think that's another one of Lana's yell through the soapbox moments. But I think it works in the big reveal.
And the big reveal that he has a trump over like Neo's like one powers, which is kind of mostly just like force pushing and holding bullets because he can't fly. He can't be able to. He still knows kung fu at least. That's still even he quotes like still no kung fu.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was like kind of a little bit depowered, just a little bit, and even worse, like the iconic bullet time that everyone loves about Keanu pulling off and like change the face of cinema has now been pretty much just pulled in reverse on him.
Yeah, he can't. He's now in slow mo, and the analyst will always revert time. Like, yeah, with a snap of his finger. Like, yeah, that's not gonna work. And on top of that, we find out that the machines were so interested in more Trinity and Neo that they rebuilt their bodies from painstaking reconstruction and tried to like plug them into a new matrix. That this whole system is powered by those two because their love. Or is that every time you two got together, bad things always happen. Like even the mere contact of them caused surges and EMP pulses that hurt the machines in real life. So the machines probably took interest in it. Like these guys are giving us more power that are making up for the humans that are leaving. So that's why they're the linchpin. Because every time those two got together, impossible things have happened. Like Neo,
Neo almost died in the first one, and then Trinity literally just told him that he can't die because I love you. Just, now get the hell up. After you've literally been shot 6 times. Or the second one where Neo literally saves Trinity after she's shot falling down
in the heart.
And literally has a bullet pulled out of her and her heart jump started by Neo shoving his hand into her like he's freaking like Mole Ram from Indiana Jones.
And so the machines are curious about this. So Hell, even Smith made fun of him for his insipid idea of love, but in the end, that's what propelled, stuff like that. So, yeah, the analyst took an interest in that, and basically tells Neo, yeah, the thing is that
We kept
Trinity
you
is
at just enough of a distance, but you're just so close. It's like it can never be. It's like she's already got someone, and you're just living off the life that you just feel like you want to live in reality instead of fiction. It's literally like this. It's literally like the biggest blue balling ever seen on cinema screens.
But yeah, and it's so funny because he's like the inverse of Mr. Colonel Sanders, big words, blah blah blah, perfect precision and all that stuff. Yeah, because he understands the human condition a little more for some reason, and it makes sense. Therapists would try to know people's minds. But so that brings us, since we mentioned her enough, and let's go on to our dear Trinity.
Carrie-Anne Moss,
Tiffany,
who plays Tiffany, but it's no hiding it. It is Trinity. She's back. She's alive. She's not a pig cushion anymore.
And you gotta admit that is a cathartic moment when it's you want them to know, like, it's funny when she tells that whole, I was playing your game and I noticed that Trinity, she's really cool, but a lot like me. I even told my husband, "You think that looks like me?" And he laughed at me, and
I laughed,
pissed me off.
but I really hated laughing because it just broke me a little.
Yeah, and then of course when he follows her to work and tries to detail the whole thing, that's when the analyst reveals his true colors. But that's when he reveals that, yeah, she's part of the key, and Neo being Neo,
the Matrix is literally running off her now, but
yeah, Neo being Neo, he can't just leave her in there. So, but everyone's telling him the same thing: the choice to be free has to be hers. And it's very funny.
No, keep going.
It's very funny because, yeah, the Matrix tries doing every dirty trick to keep her in as old Tiffany, even saying that one of her kids that she's had in this reality is her and has to go and leave Neo behind. But after being called Tiffany one too many times by her husband Chad, which is real life director and stuntman Chad Stahelski, he was Neo's stunt double in the other Matrix movies. So yeah, she decides to go. Her name is Trinity. She hates that name, Tiffany.
I'm really just fucking sick and tired of you calling me Tiffany.
Yeah. So when she awakens, it's such a hell yeah moment.
But it's like, oh no, Matrix literally could screw up. But luckily, I think it's time I reveal like the biggest positive reaction I had to seeing a old guard returning, and that's the well, essentially, I guess you could call her. She's sort of like the new Oracle, but it's not the Oracle character. It's essentially another Exile program. But let me know from the third movie, little Sati, all grown up, and oh my god, I'm so glad I rewatched the third one because I did find her so cute and endearing, and like, what, this program right here, this Exile, it makes you think that we can't just fight for just the humans. There's literally like even machines and programs that like have a stake in all this.
What's funny is how she also gave Smith Hugo Weaving one of his funniest lines ever, with that whole "cookies need love like everything does" callback.
No. It's like cookies need love like everything does.
Yeah, but yeah, I will say it isn't the same actress. That was Tanvir Alkayatwal who did young Sati back then, but she shows up in stock footage. And this is
I will say that if that wasn't really the same actress, I'm a little bit blown because I could totally see this actress coming from the original one.
Yeah, Priyanka Chopra Jonas. That's her name. Sorry if I butchered that. But yeah, well, she does look. But yeah, she played. She was one of Neo's like co-workers, but she's actually Sati keeping a close eye. And she says, yeah, she's been having a plan because turns out her father made that machine that resurrected Trinity and the Anomalium, and she says she knows ways in and out of it intimately, but it's going to be a very tight thing, and in the end, the choice lies with Trinity. So while they're doing the whole busting the Matrix to try to convince Tiffany, they're trying to hijack her real body, but also upload her mind so that she won't die, but also keep the plug in so that
She's not like killed when she's unplugged if she's not fully awakened.
So yeah, it's a very dicey. You're like on the edge of your seat, like biting nails. Will this work? Won't this work?
It's literally like a more heightened, up the stakes version of the rescue attempt by Neo and Trinity saving Morpheus in the first movie.
But yeah, and then it turns out that she did pick the choice to become Trinity again, and they were able to like use that Eagle's machine to like take her body back to the Mycenium, the ship, and also use Bugs' brain to like
Which that was a little bit trippy. I thought like, wait, are they gonna have her upload Trinity into her mind?
And that explains that moment where in the middle of the fight you see like Bugs in Trinity's position doing fight, and then there's that part where she screams and you see like multiple like images flashing, which was confusing in the trailer, but it makes sense in the movie. But yeah, they did. But yeah, so but it was funny is that the big surprise comes when they have a intense the portals can't be used, so they have an intense drive through the streets of San Francisco with all the bots turn into swarm mode, so it becomes horde mode like in a zombie movie, and it just
That's literally like instead of agents, like you said before, it's literally like these sleeper agents that are all across their look unassuming, could look like anyone like you would like beat from day to day, and just suddenly have like the Matrix code glowing in their eyes, and then just become snarling beasts, like literally to the point where they would jump off the building to literally become like
kamikaze bombs.
Yeah, they're just lobby bombs.
Well, yeah, so like I said, yeah, the stakes are not only does that happen, but they're going to reboot the entire Matrix, so that's why he has to get Trinity out of there. So
it's literally a huge bombastic action sequence of like trying to escape, like the biggest heist attempt ever pulled off in the Matrix.
And the analyst almost messes it all up and everything, and that's when Smith shows up and just
just call it like, well, actually no.
Yeah, he was.
I literally don't like being played with.
Yeah. So also you got to shoot the analyst and his cat Deja Vu, which get it, Deja Vu, and that's what he says. Well, this is where our alliance ends, Mr. Anderson. And the funny thing is, you could have been anybody, but me, I am everybody. He did that whole body hijacking of a blue pill.
And then literally just disappears. So now he's got his agent hijacking powers back. Well, that's gonna be fun when we just continue on the sequels.
If we, hopefully we get one. But it's funny. So people are saying like, well, the two work together. I mean, they make fun of the fact that like, I don't think he can fly now, right? He does try to fly, and whoop,
it's like,
yeah, that's not happening.
But to be fair, he was kind of having a little bit of an emotional crisis of almost losing Trinity, so it's kind of worrying, and also kind of worried that something might get botched, because it always seems to happen. Something like seems to be going right, but there's like this out of nowhere like obstacle that just kind of puts a snafu on it. Like,
I do like
think about it. First movie we had Cypher. Second movie we had that lobby bombed the Cylon's ship, where it literally led to the grid not going down unless Trinity stepped in. And what was it? Oh yeah, the other Smith that was like festering a guy that was hijacking like stowaway on their ship when they went to machines, and literally ended up having Neo get blinded and inadvertently would lead to Trinity getting pincushioned because she had his drive.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we were like worried, like hell. I like how Neo was willing to lay down his life on the line. Like if this deal went south, that the crew had orders to unplug him so that the machines wouldn't be able to replug him in. But yeah, so it does lead to them going to that rooftop, which you see in all the ads. And Trinity's not sure what's going to happen because her dreams like this always ended badly and ended there. But they just had to take that leap of faith. And we're worried, like, this is where Neo's going to fly? Is this where Neo's going to fly? And he falls, but they get caught. And it is Trinity holding him up. And
I had a suspicion when Trinity herself was seeing a little bit of the code in the sky, in the sunlight. It's like, that makes sense. They literally resurrected both of them. That means some of the coding Neo had probably got into Trinity. Holy shit, she's the one too. The one,
well, they
two. The two?
Unless they, yeah. Unless, the dyad in the Matrix. And oh no, let's not bring that up right now. The two becomes the probably store the one, and we're gonna talk about that one day. I know I keep alluding to it, but we really gotta talk about it.
I honestly thought it was more excited to see she was the one that was flying.
And
I would bet that a lot of people that were awakened in the Matrix really were hoping to say, yeah, jumping from roof to roof and leaping tall buildings to sing about it is awesome, but man, really wish I could Superman fly.
like, and on top of that, I know some people say, oh well, they're replacing Neo. Like, no, they're both co-equals in this, as you can see.
You're literally shitting me. Replacing Neo, he's literally like just as important as she is. They were literally baiting her to have him come back to have the Matrix running as usual, powered by two super distant lover batteries.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not like they killed Neo. Thankfully, I was worried they were gonna do. He's gonna do like a noble sacrifice or that, but no. Thankfully, Neo does make it through the end.
And I just kind of I got teary-eyed whenever I saw Trinity and Neo awake in the real world and see each other again after all the bullshit they went through in the third movie.
Yeah, so that was a well-deserved hug. I think they earned that hug and that kiss. And then it was so funny when they come back to the analyst and kick the crap out of him in his own house and keep killing him and bringing him back to say, yeah, we're going to remake the world. Like, you guys think you have all the cards? You think you're going to be able to do this and that? And they go, no, we don't need your permission. We're going to do it anyway. We just wanted to say thanks for bringing them back together.
I will admit, I do want to see the next Matrix movie where they're making rainbows in the sky.
Yeah, but we like the rainbow idea. And yeah, so he said, you guys think you're going to be all hunky-dory and put rainbows in the sky and everything? But yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going for that, but now I hear rainbows in the sky, and I'm thinking, I totally want to do that.
But yeah, it's so funny that they're both open, and I know people are saying, "Oh, well, that's more sequel baiting." You know, we don't get all the cool stuff now; we're gonna get it later. But I thought it was a good place to take it. But I saw some people getting mad of, "Oh, well, you got like a lot of lady captains in charge. Trinity's taken away from you. This is Dark Fate all over again." I'm like, no. An infinite amount of no.
The dimensions of no is God no, like tears of no, and planet of world.
All no. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't know. Keanu was all for it, and I didn't think they demeaned the character with how they portrayed him here, even though he was slightly like their shared thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
Plus, and remember, they end up flying both together anyway, so.
And the one prophecy was always bunk, remember? It was the architect's way of control for the whole resetting the source thing. I mean, that's why Morpheus is hard.
Well, it's bunk, but I'm still keeping the powers.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's see. The action was pretty solid. I mean, it wasn't quite on all cylinders as the first few, because come on, that was like expert choreography. But I think the
I do feel like knowing how much Keanu really invest himself into doing action stuff. I'm sure a lot of people will remember. It's like, oh yeah, isn't there a video that floats around the internet of him literally practicing gun combat for John Wick and literally sporting like bullseyes in like 5 seconds flat?
But yeah, I think the action worked. I mean, yeah, I do agree. It might be a little less refined with some of the quick chopping, cutting like they did during the fight in the in the game design building, or even the fight on the subterranean with the exiles. But I thought it worked out all right. I mean, yeah, it's not nothing as beautifully choreographed as say the final Barley Bra, or even the fight between Morpheus and Smith, or Smith and Neo in a subway, which will be a high mark of hand-to-hand fighting. But still, I thought that this worked well. Wasn't I mean, I think the San Francisco chase scene is my favorite action scene of the group, because it just keeps on getting more intense, and you're worried about, oh my God, is the side crew gonna die? Are they gonna die? Like Neo's force balling a lot of places, but I mean, he's got missiles being thrown at him. What's he gonna do? Like it's just they just kept up in the ante, and I got invested in that. It's kind of like another version of the motorcycle highway chase.
But I honestly, at the end of it, I feel like this thing is literally on the same par as the original Matrix, which meta narratively makes sense of why that is the case. But it definitely feels like this is where like one of the Wachowskis just kind of realized like, wow, we kind of literally like went overboard on the sequels. Maybe we should kind of like get away from what that was going, but still keep like aspects of it. Like we're not gonna say like, oh, 2 or 3 is like not important. We don't want to think about that. It's like, no, they worked their ass off on that one, so they're keeping that. But it's like we kind of constrain ourselves a little bit. We need a story that kind of frees us, just like how the original Matrix kind of freed our imaginations.
Oh, interesting. I'm reading something right now about back then they announced that Warner Brothers was going to make another one with Zach Penn writing the thing, and that Michael B. Jordan was probably going to be the star. They um they were not involved, and the studio wanted their wrestling industry was announced by Penn, and the stories were separated. Reportedly a prequel about young Morpheus, but Penn was okay. But Jada Pinkett Smith later reflected that handling the franchise's legacy to other filmmakers would have been a horrendous mistake. But I think, yeah, because this is still a personal film. You see some of Lana's frustrations, like with the rants against, reboots, or the rants against forced sequels. It's funny that you can feel some of that, but it's also very tender. But like the love between Trinity and Neo really anchors this film from just being another, balls to the wall action film. So I think because it's a love story.
So yeah, kind of a big movie to end off on. Although like my brother and I are still kind of excited about the new Kingsman prequel movie coming. But as far as like a big blockbuster send off to 2021, a Matrix Resurrections definitely feels the itch, and I think I can probably say that it definitely has broken the Resurrections title curse. Although don't get cocky with it. That thing still has a lot of like burden and like really like red ledger of what it caused.
I mean, the thing is that it's kind of a binary choice. What's funny, you either this pill is either red or blue depending on how you see. You might see this as, oh, this is more Hollywood drivel, and you might deride it for that, or you're thinking, oh, this is breaking free. So it's funny how this thing is so split down the middle in reactions. So I find it interesting because some people say they see the potential and it fell short. Others are saying it went past their expectations. They gave them a story they didn't know they wanted. So it's fascinating that this movie's so split. A lot of the best films tend to be some of the best films are unanimously praised, but others that are challenging will always be split down the middle. For some saying this thing's trash or this thing's genius, or maybe it's a mix of both. Like hell, a greatly debated movie. I remember having that thing where it's like people didn't know what to make of it back then. Was it was an experimental film. I think they made way back when, and that always does beat challenge, but now it's universally accepted as, oh, this was, oh, okay, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's the divisiveness is really what's more fascinating to me too, because I hear the complaints some have had that are within reason. I think if you have problems with the way executions were half baked or stories, that's fair. You thought the action was a little choppy, okay, that's fair. If you thought that it was a little too smushy at some points, okay, that's fair too. But if you're going to make up narratives of, oh, well, it's have clearly made with this type of agenda in mind, I'm like, okay, you're seeing what you want to see out of it. It's kind of like a Rorschach test. But
Hell,
what I got out of it,
they literally make a joke about it in that like Matrix montage of like what made the Matrix like really great, and then they're just pulling out. It's like it's literally an anti-consumerism thing. It's like
the transgender metaphor.
it's like, dude, it was literally a metaphor for coming out of the closet. Like you really didn't need to read that too much of the lines in that one.
Point is, this is a lot for. I think in a few years this will be recognized. I mean, I think this movie lives or dies on whether sequels are made. Like, if no sequels are made, this is, I think, a pretty fitting conclusion for that love story of those two coming back. I think that's a nice way to leave it that way. If there is more, we can hope to capitalize on the checks they've written that they've promised on this one. Because some people felt that was the problem with the other sequels, was that the first Matrix left a huge check, a big canvas of what they could do next, and they didn't quite live up to it.
The third one just kind of got stuck in a rut.
Yeah, they kind of got up their own ass about their philosophies and shit. But some people feel the same way. This movie could probably live or die based on if the sequels follow through. Like maybe next sequel we'll see more of the war between the machines and the machines, or we'll see how does Morpheus deal.
I honestly hope he gets an Animatrix 2 from this, because I feel like there's still like enough open
in the 60 years?
ideas in 60 years of like what we can explain. It's like, okay, how about we like explore what happened in the peacetime, what happened to Zion, what happened to certain individuals that are not seen and probably going to be teased in the oncoming sequels. What about more of the machine side of things? About like, I honestly think that like during 2 and 3, like we hear about like, oh, there's this forbidden machine city, and I feel like apart from all these like squiddy tentacles, there are machines like that were just rest of the city that were just kind of like just sitting around going like, when are we gonna stop talking about war? Can we just like figure out how we're gonna function if like the humans don't like work out as intended? Like we're still kind of like dealing with the whole black sky and all that.
Well, they said in Matrix Reloaded. Well, what's ironic is that we need machines to keep the sun going here, but the machines need us. So like, we need them and we need us. Is that your point? At my age, you don't see any point in making points. Is that with no young men on the council? Good point. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's so funny. So you're right. There's a lot more to be mined from there. And like I said, I just like that it opened the door. And it's just that I want to see more.
I want to see more too. If that generates a response like that from us and from certain people I've seen, I honestly think we're going to be greenlighting, no pun intended, 5 and 6.
But maybe do it one at a time. I think maybe they got too ambitious trying to do 2 at a time. Because maybe that was the downfall of the other ones, is that since it's already back to back, they were so far in the course they can't course correct if the second one doesn't quite.
I don't know. So. We're still kind of dealing with like having 2-parters made. Like the Deathly Hallows worked out being a 2-parter. We're literally going to have a new Spider-Verse movie that got so ambitious the directors felt like, okay, I see no way to do it. We have to split this into 2 parts.
But yeah, so we'll see. But I really did like it. Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu really do a good job at what they got. The new cast is endearing, especially Jessica Henwick as Bugs. I really want to see more of her. And
Patrick Harris was delightful to see as a villain, and it's interesting that he's still around technically. So he's still like, well, he's still technically the head honcho of the Matrix. He's running things where the architect left off on. And of
But
course, we
now
have the Rogue Smith going wild card, just finding ways to muck up the system.
and in some sort of way, Sati is sort of the new Oracle. She's like the alliance between human and machine there. So I want to see more of her. But yeah, this one was fun to me. I thought the poking fun of it was the most enjoyable aspect, and it did make me think. Like all the Matrix films should make you think. And if it didn't work for you, fair is fair. If you thought it was drivel or trash, again, that's your prerogative. But for us, I think we got our money's worth. I mean, if you have HBO Max, it's already there for free, so you can just check it out. And the only thing you'll be costing yourself is time if you didn't enjoy it. But if you did enjoy it, then it's time well spent. In the theaters, I don't know if it's necessary to watch it in theaters, but I got a kick out of watching it in the theater as my first go around, and I think it still works on that level. So, yeah, I guess the future is what will really entail how this movie will be received. Because don't forget, everybody was on cloud nine when Force Awakens came out. We had no idea where this was going to go, and then the movies came out, and people became more split on it as it went on. So I don't know if the same thing will happen to this one, but uh, the fact that not everyone's on cloud nine with this one probably means good for it. I don't know. Like some people suggest that the Wachowskis still be involved as like writers and producers, but they have like some new blood like really injects into it. I heard someone recommend Kate Herron from the Loki Marvel shows to direct a Matrix movie.
Okay, but at least that series so far was in itself just as much of a mindfuck as the Matrix. I still feel like the Wachowskis still need to really be involved heavily
Also,
on
this
it.
is a really big, and on a historical standpoint, this is a big deal that we have a Wachowski referred to by their proper pronoun name now as Lana in the credits. So that's probably worth something.
So yeah, the Matrix Resurrections, it's an all around good time. It's definitely not a superior Matrix movie, but definitely a very welcome one.
Yeah, like I said, I think in the end the choice is yours on how you'll receive this film. Whether you see it as a blue pill that will make you, forget about things and be like, or as a red pill that makes you really awake to what could really be possible with films, a world without possibility, an endless possibility, like the first movie promised. So, I mean, I do like
I,
that it's a personal stamp from Lana. It does feel personal. That's what I like about it.
I do hope this leads to another Matrix game being made. It's like that Unreal Engine 5 tech just really just kind of situated itch that's like, I never actually played the end of the Matrix, but Path of Neo, that pretty much got obsessed with it as soon as I got my hands on it, and it was definitely like a very good cinematic feel of like, hey, you like watching Keanu Reeves play out this story? Now you get to be the one. Oh, and also we'll just give out an alternate ending where you literally fight a Smithzilla.
The Mega Smith. But yeah, so yeah, if you're interested, I say give it a look. You might like it, you might not, but for what it's worth, we liked it. So take with that what you will. And well, I hope you enjoyed us rambling about it for about 2 hours. This is more about the Matrix as a whole rather than Matrix Resurrection. So take with that what you will. But we enjoyed what we saw on it. So thank you, Derek, for prompting this whole thing.
And at the time of this recording, we wish you like a happy New Year, essentially, because by the time it even gets uploaded, it'll be long after Christmas. So here's the 2022 and all the possibilities that will lead to. Hopefully for a much better.
Sonic 2, man. Sonic 2's happening in less than 4 months.
Uncharted even less. I'm really excited about that. I really hope you are too. The Dominion, the Spider-Verse, Multiverse of Madness.
Avatar 2 finally after 10 years.
Yeah, I believe that when I see a trailer. Anyways, thank you again, and let's see, what's to end on? What's the Matrix quote to? Because we're all about nostalgia here, aren't we? I suppose everything that has a beginning has an end.
Thank you very much. We'll catch you the next time we feel like recording something. And Happy New Year and take care. Oh, and remember, there is no spoon.
The choice is yours.
Hey everyone.
Who are you? With great power comes great responsibility.
Quiero